Have you ever wondered how one of the most dazzling cities on Earth could vanish in just a few days, swallowed whole by the desert, leaving no trace behind? How could cliffside caves, carved into sheer rock faces, defy 1,500 years of storms and still whisper their multilingual secrets through time? And what if the nomadic warriors weren't the barbarians history made them out to be, but the golden thread that wove East and West together? Just like before, stay tuned and support us, because this journey with Logic Relic is only getting started. History is not a straight line. It is a labyrinth of unanswered questions. Monuments aligned with stars we no longer see. Texts describing technologies that shouldn't exist. Legends of gods who were more than myth. For centuries, we've accepted the official story. But what if the truth is far stranger, far more profound? Join us as we peel back the layers of time and confront the world's most baffling ancient enigmas. Hidden beneath the shifting sands of the Karakum Desert lies the ghost of a city that was once the beating heart of the Silk Road. This was not just any settlement. It was Merv, a dazzling metropolis that outshone Baghdad and Constantinople, a place where trade, science, and culture flourished on an unimaginable scale. Yet, in what seemed like the blink of an eye, this jewel of Central Asia was silenced, erased from glory, and swallowed by time. Why did the world's greatest city vanish so suddenly, leaving behind only crumbling walls and haunting mysteries? What do you think truly caused the sudden downfall of Merv? Was it the Mongol invasion, environmental collapse, or something even more mysterious? Share your thoughts in the comments below. As early as the 3rd millennium BCE, the land of Merv already showed traces of human settlement, and for thousands of years afterward, it continued to play a pivotal role in history. Under the Achaemenids, Seleucids, Parthians, Sassanids, and later the Abbasids and Seljuks, Merv was not just an ordinary city, but a strategic gateway controlling the flow of trade between East and West. This unique position made Merv a vital crossroads on the Silk Road linking China, India, Persia, and the Mediterranean. As a result, not only precious goods such as silk, spices, and gemstones were exchanged, but also languages, religions, knowledge, and ideas. Merv stood like a beacon of civilization amid the harsh desert where cultures converged, collided, and spread, shaping the face of Central Asia for centuries. In the 12th century, under the Seljuk dynasty, Merv reached the height of prosperity. Medieval records describe the city as once the most populous in the world, even surpassing Baghdad and Constantinople in scale. It hosted vast libraries, renowned schools, and attracted scholars from across the world who came to study and exchange knowledge. Astronomers, physicians, mathematicians, and theologians all gathered here, earning Merv the title capital of science and intellect in Central Asia. Its architecture reflected this prosperity. Massive multi-layered walls, Seljuk palaces, mosques, mausoleums, and watchtowers still survive in ruins today. The most prominent is Gurganj, an immense fortress built with advanced techniques, prompting archaeologists to ask, what threats did the people of that time face to acquire such formidable defenses? Tragedy struck Merv in 1221 when the Mongol army under Genghis Khan advanced after a series of campaigns across Central Asia. Although the city surrendered, the fate of its inhabitants was utterly horrific. Arab and Persian chronicles record that the Mongols carried out a massacre on an unprecedented scale. Hundreds of thousands, perhaps even more than 1 million people, were killed within just a few days. Libraries filled with knowledge, magnificent mosques, Seljuk palaces, and major architectural works were all destroyed or set ablaze. The death toll may have been exaggerated, but no one denies that this was one of the most catastrophic acts of destruction in human history. The wound was so deep that Merv, once one of the most splendid centers of civilization, was never able to recover after the tragedy. What makes Merv one of the most fascinating archaeological sites in Central Asia is not only its former wealth and prosperity, but also the enigmatic mystery surrounding its sudden collapse. Historians and archaeologists have long debated, was the brutal Mongol invasion alone enough to wipe out such a vast and wealthy metropolis, or were there other hidden factors that pushed Merv into ruin? One important theory suggests that environmental factors played a decisive role. The Murghab River, the city's sole lifeline, may have changed its course or diminished severely over time. Without a stable water supply, agriculture, the foundation that sustained a large population, quickly withered. The harsh Karakum Desert surrounding Merv only worsened the situation, making the maintenance of a large community nearly impossible. At the same time, shifts in global trade networks stripped Merv of its central role. As maritime routes flourished and the Silk Road declined, Merv, almost entirely dependent on this overland commerce, lost the economic drive to recover after war. Political instability and power struggles among successive dynasties further deepened its neglect. No longer regarded as a strategic capital by rising empires, the city slipped into political obscurity. Moreover, recent discoveries of underground tunnels and layered structures, still largely unexcavated, hint at secrets yet to be uncovered. Were they merely infrastructure for defense and rituals? Or do they contain crucial clues about the true cause of the city's downfall? The convergence of many factors, war, environment, economy, politics, and unresolved mysteries, has turned Merv's decline into a historical puzzle with no definitive answer. After the tragedy of 1221, Merv lingered on for several more centuries, but only as a faint shadow of its glorious past. The once thriving metropolis grew desolate with the remaining inhabitants scattered among its crumbling ruins. Deprived of the economic vitality of the Silk Road and the abundant waters of the Mergab River, Merv quickly lost the ability to sustain urban life. The winds and sands of the Karakum Desert gradually covered its grand structures, reducing them to lifeless ruins. By the 18th century, Merv had almost vanished from the map, remembered only as a ghost city. Today, its collapsed walls and time-worn palaces stand in silence, telling the story of a brilliant center of civilization that was swept away into the oblivion of history. The greatest mystery of Merv lies not only in the scale of the Mongol massacre, but also in why such a major cultural hub disappeared almost completely. Unlike Samarkand or Bokhara, cities also devastated by the Mongols, Merv never recovered, instead sinking into the sands. Was this nature's punishment on the land? Or was Merv built on a fragile foundation ready to collapse with a single shock? What is certain is that Merv is more than just an archaeological site. It is a symbol of the fragility of human civilizations. It shows that even the greatest centers can vanish after one catastrophe, leaving behind questions future generations may never fully answer. Merv, ancient city, stands both as a testament to the Silk Road's brilliance and as a haunting reminder of civilization's fragility. The mystery of its decline remains unsolved, and perhaps it is precisely this enigma that keeps Merv endlessly fascinating. In the barren desert, its surviving ruins still whisper of a glorious past, a bloody tragedy, and secrets never revealed. Located on the edge of the harsh Gobi Desert in northwest China, the Dunhuang Mogao Caves, often called the Caves of 1,000 Buddhas, have long been regarded as one of humanity's greatest cultural heritages. Beyond being a vast treasure of Buddhist art, the site also harbors mysteries that stretch beyond the imagination of archaeologists, historians, and engineers. For over a millennium, hundreds of caves carved directly into the sandstone cliffs became gathering places for merchants, monks, artists, and travelers along the Silk Road. Yet, the greatest question history leaves behind remains. How could such a monumental work endure for more than 1,500 years in such a harsh natural environment and on rock that is prone to collapse? What do you think allowed the Mogao Caves to endure for over 1,500 years in such a harsh desert environment? Share your thoughts in the comments below. To grasp Mogao's magnitude, one must imagine more than 735 caves containing about 2,000 statues and over 45,000 square meters of murals. These numbers are not only enormous in scale, but also reflect continuous development over more than 10 centuries from the 4th to the 14th century. Each painting and each sculpture bears the mark of dynasties and cultures from India, Persia, Central Asia, and China. Dunhuang was a crucial crossroads of the Silk Road, a channel not only for goods, but also for ideas and faiths. This made Mogao the most vivid museum of ancient cultural exchange in Asia. One of the aspects that most puzzles scholars when studying the Dunhuang Mogao Caves is the question of construction techniques. These caves were carved directly into sandstone cliffs, a type of rock that is very soft, prone to collapse, and quickly weathered under the impact of wind, sand, and extreme desert temperature changes. Yet, hundreds of caves, including some that are deep and spacious, have remained solid for more than 1,500 years. This raises a major question. What methods, materials, or technical secrets did ancient builders use to both construct and preserve such a monumental complex under seemingly impossible conditions? Modern archaeological studies have shown that the ancient builders of the Dunhuang Mogao Caves did not construct them in a simple way, but applied complex and hard-to-explain techniques to counter the fragility of the sandstone cliffs. They used sophisticated wooden frameworks for reinforcement and coated the surfaces with layers of clay mixed with straw to enhance adhesion. For the murals, they did not paint directly on the rock, but carefully prepared multiple thin plaster layers as a base before applying pigments made from natural minerals. Thanks to this process, the murals have remained vivid for over a millennium, leading experts to continually question, did the ancients use some kind of adhesive or preservation technology that even modern science has yet to fully explain? When delving into the dating and distribution of the Mogao Caves, researchers encounter even more puzzling issues. Historical records indicate that construction began in the 4th century. Yet, the technical traces left behind show clear disparities between different periods, with some intricate details appearing far beyond the capabilities of the technology of the time. Some scholars suggest that there may have been guilds of master builders who were specially trained and who possessed hereditary secrets of sandstone construction, secrets that have since been lost. Another theory proposes that the location of Mogao was not chosen by chance, since this particular cliff section has a more stable geological structure compared to surrounding areas, reducing the risk of collapse. But was this the result of careful calculation or merely a fortunate coincidence? That question remains unanswered to this day. One of the most famous mysteries associated with the Dunhuang Mogao Caves is Cave 17, often called the Dunhuang Library. In 1900, a monk named Wang Yuanlu accidentally discovered a small chamber sealed behind a wall, inside of which were more than 50,000 manuscripts, scriptures, scrolls, and handwritten documents of all kinds. What makes this cache remarkable is that its contents were not limited to religion, but extended across fields such as astronomy, medicine, mathematics, history, and folklore, recorded in dozens of different languages: Chinese, Tibetan, Sogdian, Sanskrit, and even Hebrew. Who hid them, why the chamber was sealed, and what the true purpose was remain unanswered questions to this day. Some scholars believe it was an attempt to protect knowledge during periods of political and religious turmoil, while others see it as part of a special religious ritual. Whatever the reason, the fact that these manuscripts survived intact for more than a millennium in the harsh desert environment continues to astonish researchers. It not only reflects the sophistication of ancient preservation thinking, but also deepens the veil of mystery surrounding the construction techniques and methods of safeguarding knowledge at Mogao, making the site one of the most enigmatic heritages on the planet. One cannot overlook the fact that many artifacts were taken out of China in the early 20th century by Western and Japanese scholars. Today, much of this treasure lies scattered across Britain, France, Russia, and Japan, while China retains only a fraction. This raises not only cultural ownership issues, but also deepens the sense of mystery around Dunhuang. Important pieces of the puzzle of Mogao's history are divided, and will they ever be reunited to reveal the full story? Viewed politically and religiously, Mogao also demonstrates how Chinese dynasties used Buddhist art to consolidate power. Many murals and statues bear not only spiritual meaning, but also depict armies, courts, and merchants, reflecting the intertwining of religion and politics. Some scholars even suggest that sealing Cave 17 was linked to attempts to control knowledge and religious imagery in line with state ideology. Today, the Mogao Caves are recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, attracting millions of visitors and scholars. Yet, despite ongoing research, great questions remain unsolved. How can we explain such durable construction in soft sandstone? What secrets preserve the colors, statues, and murals so vividly? And beneath the desert sands, might there still be undiscovered caves, untold chapters of Mogao's story? Perhaps it is the combination of vast scale, artistic refinement, and unanswered mysteries of technique, dating, and preservation that make the Dunhuang Mogao Caves one of the most captivating enigmas of ancient civilization. The site is not only a record of religion and culture, but also a challenge to modern science. Each study raises new questions instead of final answers. And that makes Mogao not just a heritage site, but also a reminder. Some secrets of the past, no matter how advanced our technology becomes, will always demand humility before the wisdom and creativity of our ancestors. Hidden among the majestic mountains of Gansu, China, the Maijishan grottos, also known as Maijishan Caves, stand as one of the most magnificent and mysterious religious artworks in Asia. Seen from afar, the sandstone mountain rises more than 150 m, resembling a giant haystack, which is why the ancients named it Maijishan, meaning haystack mountain. What makes the site unique is not just its natural shape, but the way humans skillfully transformed the vertical cliff into a complex of more than 190 caves housing over 7,200 clay statues and thousands of square meters of murals. Confronted with this wonder, one cannot help but feel the power of religious devotion while also being puzzled. How, more than 1,500 years ago, could people carve caves, sculpt statues, and construct wooden corridors clinging to sheer cliffs that still survive today, standing before such an incredible wonder? Many mysteries remain unanswered. How do you think the ancient builders more than 1,500 years ago managed to carve caves, create statues, and construct wooden corridors on a sheer cliff that still endures today? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. The Maijishan grottos were first begun during the later Qin dynasty, 4th century, and throughout successive dynasties from Northern Wei, Western Wei, Northern Zhou, Sui, Tang, and up through Ming and Qing. The site was continuously expanded and restored. Located on the ancient Silk Road, Maijishan was both a Buddhist center and a cultural crossroads where Indian, Central Asian, Persian, and Chinese artistic traditions converged. This is clearly reflected in the statues. Some embody the familiar compassion of Eastern Buddhism. Others carry the mysterious traits of Gandhara art, while still others reveal majestic Persian influences. Such diversity turned Maijishan into a living museum of cross-continental cultural exchange. The most astonishing aspect of Maijishan lies in its advanced construction techniques. Imagine on a nearly vertical cliff, ancient craftsmen carved deep into the rock to create hundreds of caves, then skillfully linked them with a network of corridors and wooden bridges clinging tightly to the mountainside. From afar, the entire complex resembles a city floating in the clouds with slender passageways spreading like a spider's web, both precarious and breathtaking. Strangely, despite enduring over 1,500 years of earthquakes and storms, most corridors and structures remain standing in an almost unbelievable way. Today, as visitors step onto these narrow and dizzying walkways, they still shiver at the danger, yet cannot help but admire the wisdom and determination of the ancient builders who transformed a perilous cliff into a timeless wonder. One of the most perplexing aspects of Maijishan is its resilience against natural disasters, especially since it lies in a region frequently struck by strong earthquakes. Throughout history, many seismic events destroyed some of the wooden corridors. Yet, most caves and thousands of clay statues have endured steadfastly. The question is, how could craftsmen more than 1,500 years ago, and with only primitive tools, create a structure both precariously positioned and astonishingly durable? Did they possess a special technique for anchoring timber into rock or a method of reinforcing clay so that the statues resisted erosion from rain and wind? Some researchers even suggest that they held knowledge of materials that has since been lost. This extraordinary durability makes Maijishan not only a cultural and artistic treasure, but also a technical enigma that remains unsolved. One of the most challenging questions about Maijishan concerns the transportation and handling of materials. The colossal statues here, some over 10 m tall, were crafted from clay, mixed with straw, grass, stone powder, and coated with pigments, meaning tons of raw material had to be brought up a nearly vertical cliff. How did ancient builders achieve this? Some theories suggest they erected massive wooden scaffolds or used rudimentary pulley systems. Yet maintaining stability of such structures on treacherous terrain remains an enigma. Moreover, ensuring the safety of dozens of craftsmen working simultaneously at such heights seems beyond the capability of ordinary tools of the time. Archaeologists believe the timber may have been sourced from nearby forests, but the methods of hauling it up and securing it firmly onto steep rock faces still astonish researchers today. This mystery only adds to the aura of Maijishan, turning it into a living testament to ancient technical knowledge now lost to history. While stone statues and other cave complexes are often praised for their durability, Maijishan astonishes with thousands of clay statues that have stood for more than 1,500 years, yet still preserve their expressions and colors. Clay is normally a fragile material prone to cracking, mold, or peeling under harsh weather. And yet here, many figures remain intact in every detail, from the folds of robes and gestures of the hands to the subtle expressions on their faces. Modern research shows that ancient artisans invented a special formula. Clay was kneaded together with dried straw, grass fibers, and sometimes hemp, giving it elasticity and reducing cracks. The outer layer was coated with multiple layers of finely ground stone powder, then painted with natural mineral pigments such as cinnabar, azurite, and ochre. This combination made the statues light, flexible, and resistant to climate changes. Even so, the precise recipe and construction methods remain a mystery, leaving modern scientists unable to fully replicate the perfection of this ancient craftsmanship. The murals within the caves are equally enigmatic. They depict Buddhist cosmology, everyday life scenes of warfare, and images of neighboring civilizations. Some murals bear clear Persian or Indian artistic styles, proving Maijishan was not only a religious hub, but also a cultural melting pot. What surprises archaeologists most is that these paintings still retain relatively bright colors despite less than ideal conditions inside the caves. Some theories suggest the use of natural minerals like cinnabar, azurite, and ochre which help preserve their brilliance. Across centuries, folk legends further deepen the aura of mystery around Maijishan. Stories tell of high monks meditating here, imbuing the mountain with sacred energy. Some statues, though heavily damaged, still radiate a gaze so lifelike that onlookers feel pierced by their eyes. For many pilgrims, this is proof that Maijishan is a threshold between the human world and the divine. Viewed as a whole, the Maijishan grottos are not just a religious artistic treasure, but also evidence of the extraordinary abilities of ancient people. Hanging caves, colossal clay statues, and precarious wooden corridors all seem to defy the limits of ancient engineering as we understand it. Standing before them, archaeologists, architects, and travelers alike share the same dual emotions: awe at their grandeur and curiosity at the unanswered mysteries. Today, the Maijishan grottos are recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site and remain a must-see landmark along the Silk Road. Yet, they remain an unsolved riddle. Were these construction techniques solely the result of human effort, or did they rely on forgotten knowledge? Can we learn from these ancient artisans how to turn the seemingly impossible into reality? Perhaps that is the eternal allure of the Maijishan grottos, a monument suspended between earth and sky, a mystery defying time and a heritage that forces us to ask, did the ancients know far more than we have ever imagined? Who were the Xiongnu really? To their enemies in ancient China, they were the terrifying horsemen of the north, sweeping across the frontiers with unmatched speed and fury. Yet behind the thunder of hooves and the clash of steel lies a quieter, deeper mystery. Tombs scattered across the vast steppes of Mongolia, Inner Mongolia, and Central Asia. These monumental burial sites are more than graves for chieftains and nobles. They are locked chambers of history filled with treasures, strange rituals, and cultural clues that challenge everything we thought we knew. Each tomb is a silent witness to a vanished empire holding secrets about power, identity, and survival that scholars are still struggling to unravel. What do you think these tombs reveal about the true identity of the Xiongnu? Were they a single people or a vast confederation of many tribes? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The Xiongnu tombs were not merely earth mounds scattered across the steppe, but rather complex architectural structures whose scale far exceeded what one might imagine for a nomadic people. Many of the larger tombs were built in square or rectangular forms covered with heavy stone slabs on the outside, while inside lay multiple subsidiary pits used to bury horses, weapons, and a wealth of grave goods. This reflects a deep belief that the journey into the afterlife still required horses, symbols of strength and freedom, as well as weapons to safeguard one's status and power. Excavations at Noinla in Mongolia astonished archaeologists with the discovery of countless luxurious artifacts, exquisitely crafted gold and silver objects, bronze mirrors, fine ceramics, precious silks, and even textiles of Han Chinese origin. The presence of treasures from such diverse regions shows that the Xiongnu were not merely nomadic warriors, but also a hub of intercontinental trade, controlling and profiting from routes that connected East Asia with the wider world. What makes the Xiongnu tombs the most intriguing highlight in the field of archaeology are the cultural traces and identity mysteries they reveal. In Chinese historical texts, the Xiongnu were often portrayed as dangerous enemies, mounted warriors who spread fear along the borders. Yet, when modern archaeology first opened the doors to these tombs, that image of barbarism was immediately challenged. Evidence showed that the Xiongnu were far from simple. They were a diverse community blending multiple cultural elements, and perhaps even standing at the crossroads between East and West. Inside aristocratic tombs, archaeologists uncovered countless embroidered fragments, textiles, and motifs depicting animals and humans. What is striking is that these artifacts do not follow a single style. Some objects display refined weaving techniques of Han Chinese origin, pointing to direct trade or even influence from China. At the same time, there were ornaments and metalwork in the Scythian or Central Asian style, marked by bold stylization of animals and powerful lines completely different in character. The coexistence of these elements within a single tomb suggests that the Xiongnu were not merely recipients of foreign traditions, but skillfully merged them into a distinctive cultural identity. Especially notable were the small gold and silver figurines depicting horses, deer, and birds. These were not just decorative objects. They symbolized the spiritual world of the steppe and reflected a surprisingly advanced level of metal craftsmanship. Some scholars believe the Xiongnu must have had their own master artisans, or at the very least they recruited skilled craftsmen from different regions and integrated them into their nomadic society. This directly undermines the long-standing notion that the Xiongnu were only horse riders and warriors lacking developed handicraft traditions. Even more important were the human remains discovered within the tombs. Anthropological studies revealed clear diversity. Some skeletons bore East Asian characteristics, while others had features closer to Eurasian populations, with some showing mixed ancestry difficult to classify. This diversity strongly supports the hypothesis that the Xiongnu were not a homogeneous ethnic group, but rather a vast confederation of tribes with varied origins. It was precisely this fusion that gave them extraordinary strength, enabling the Xiongnu to forge a cavalry empire stretching from the Chinese frontier deep into Central Asia. Yet this raises major unresolved questions. Were the Xiongnu the direct ancestors of later nomadic peoples such as the Huns, the Turks, or the Mongols? Or were they only a temporary alliance that eventually dissolved, leaving cultural traces scattered among different communities? Tomb evidence shows the Xiongnu interacted and blended extensively with many cultures. But to this day, no one can say with certainty who they really were, where they came from, or why they vanished from history. It is precisely these multifaceted cultural traces and the ambiguity of their identity that make the Xiongnu tombs a black box of history for an entire civilization. Each embroidered piece, each metal artifact, each set of skeletal remains unearthed acts as a fragment of truth revealing part of the story while simultaneously opening new mysteries. And perhaps it is this very complexity that ensures the Xiongnu will forever remain one of the greatest unsolved questions in Eurasian archaeology. Another puzzle lies in their burial rituals. In many Xiongnu tombs, horses were buried alongside their owners in large numbers, sometimes dozens, in a single grave. This underscores the sacred bond between humans and horses. But it also raises questions. Was this meant as an honor, or was it a form of sacrifice? Furthermore, some tombs show signs of burning or deliberate destruction, sparking theories of unique funerary customs, possibly tied to fire worship. symbolizing purification and the transition of the soul. As excavations continued, new findings only deepened the mystery of the Xiongnu story. Embroidered textiles from Noinula depicted scenes of banquets, battles, and daily life with clothing and weapon details unlike any known culture of the time. Some scholars argue this proves the Xiongnu had their own distinctive identity, not just borrowing from the Han or Scythians, but blending elements into a unique style. Yet many pieces of this puzzle remain unsolved. Perhaps what confounds researchers most is the contradiction between historical accounts and archaeological evidence. While Han Chinese records often portrayed the Xiongnu as barbaric and uncivilized, the tombs reveal the opposite. Complex funerary rites, skilled craftsmanship, extensive trade networks, and a multifaceted cultural identity. Could the barbarian image have been mere political propaganda to justify endless wars? And perhaps instead of being only enemies, the Xiongnu were actually among the first forces to lay the groundwork for the Silk Road, the great link between East and West. These mysteries make the Xiongnu tombs not just burial sites, but the black box of an entire civilization. Every artifact unearthed, every skeleton analyzed challenges old prejudices and opens new perspectives on the complexity of the ancient Eurasian steppe. To this day, scholars continue searching for the royal tombs of the Xiongnu, monuments said to rival the tomb of China's first emperor, but none have yet been definitively found. That unanswered question, along with the ambiguity of the Xiongnu's true identity, ensures that their tombs remain one of humanity's greatest archaeological enigmas. In 1969, deep in the Issyk Valley near Almaty, Kazakhstan, archaeologists opened a burial mound and stumbled upon a vision straight out of legend. A figure dressed head to toe in shimmering gold. This was not an ordinary grave, but the resting place of the Issyk Golden Man. A dazzling masterpiece of steppe civilization. Clad in more than 4,000 golden ornaments, the figure radiated power, wealth, and artistry beyond imagination, embodying the genius of the Saka, a branch of the Scythian nomads who once ruled the Central Asian plains more than 2,000 years ago. From the moment of discovery, the Golden Man became an icon of Kazakhstan. Etched into monuments, stamps, and coins, a proud reminder of an ancient glory. And yet, beneath the glittering armor of gold lies a riddle that has confounded scholars for decades. Secrets of craftsmanship, identity, and meaning that remain as mysterious as the day the tomb was opened. How did the Saka craft such exquisite gold? Was it borrowed knowledge or a lost technique? Share your thoughts in the comments below. What makes the Issyk Golden Man truly remarkable is the golden attire that nearly covered the entire body. Over 4,000 tiny golden pieces were attached to the tunic, headdress, belt, boots, and other parts, creating a glorious depiction of power and status. Among them, the tall pointed headdress about 70 centimeters high is considered a symbol of the link between humans and the divine world, possibly representing shamanic beliefs, sun worship, or the aspiration to reach the sacred. These golden pieces were not mere ornaments, but intricately depicted animals, spiral motifs, and mythological symbols reflecting the unique worldview of the Saka, where nature, animal power, and deities were intertwined. What most confounds archaeologists and art historians is the Saka's gold working skills, which seemed far ahead of their time. The golden fragments found on the Issyk Golden Man's attire measure only a few mm. Yet they were meticulously shaped into animals of symbolic power such as deer, horses, birds of prey, snow leopards, and even mythical creatures. On each piece, minute details like eyes, claws, and antlers were carved with such clarity that even modern technology admits the craftsmanship is extraordinary. This is astonishing. For more than 2,000 years ago, the Saka were known mainly as nomadic tribes roaming the vast steppes with no laboratories and no refined tools for advanced metallurgy. So, how were they able to melt gold, repousse it, hammer it thin, and engrave it with such accuracy? That question remains unsolved, making the Issyk Golden Man's attire not only a symbol of power, but also an enduring challenge to modern science. Faced with the incredible refinement of the golden fragments in the Issyk Golden Man's attire, many scholars have proposed different theories to explain the techniques used. Some suggest that the Saka had mastered the art of metallurgy, employing methods such as cold hammering, repoussé, soldering with special compounds, or smelting gold in clay furnaces at high temperatures. However, when the artifacts were examined under modern microscopes, researchers discovered traces of ultra-fine solder joints, as well as joining and fastening techniques so sophisticated that they far surpassed what one would expect from a nomadic people. These details suggest that the Saka were not merely steppe warriors, but possessed a flourishing tradition of craftsmanship and metal artistry advanced enough to rival contemporary civilizations such as Persia or Greece. This surprising revelation has sparked ongoing debates, forcing scholars to reconsider the true role of the Saka in the history of the region. One of the details that most amazed archaeologists is that many golden fragments from the Issyk golden man's attire were crafted using the granulation technique, a method of creating patterns by attaching tiny gold granules onto the surface. This was a technique famously practiced in the ancient Mediterranean, especially in the workshops of the Etruscans and Greeks, where artisans had to control temperature and bonding agents with extreme precision so the granules would not melt but adhere firmly to form decorative motifs. The discovery of this technique in the heart of the Central Asian steppe has sparked intense debate. Is it evidence of wide-ranging technological exchange between East and West through an early Silk Road, or proof that the Saka independently developed a unique goldsmithing tradition? To this day, the question remains unanswered, leaving each tiny gold granule as a silent witness to a great mystery of history. Beyond the craftsmanship, the identity of the individual in the tomb also remains a mystery. The skeleton was badly damaged, making it impossible to confirm whether it belonged to a young prince, a noble warrior, or even a female warrior, an Amazon of the steppe. Some scholars, based on the headdress and grave goods, lean toward a male figure, but others argue that women in nomadic societies could also hold leadership and combat roles. Thus, the Issyk Golden Man is more of a symbolic title than a definitive identification. Within the Issyk burial, archaeologists also discovered a silver bowl engraved with strange symbols believed to be a form of ancient script. Many scholars speculate that it could belong to the Saka language. Yet to this day, no one has been able to fully decipher it. If these inscriptions were ever understood, they might open a new window into the belief systems, ways of thought, and spiritual life of the Saka people. However, the fact that this script remains an undeciphered code only deepens the mystery, sparking speculation about knowledge that may have been lost to time. Today, the Issyk Golden Man is not just an artifact in a museum, but a spiritual emblem of Kazakhstan. Statues of the Golden Man stand in many places from the capital Astana to other major cities, symbolizing national pride and the enduring legacy of steppe culture. It reminds future generations that their ancestors once experienced a glorious era rivaling any of the world's great civilizations. Yet, it is the goldsmithing technique, the very element that made the attire dazzling and unique, that remains unresolved. Did the Saka inherit the craft from other civilizations through trade? Or did they possess a secret artisanal tradition lost to time? The bracelet's armor plates and tiny gilded motifs serve as a timeless message that human hands are capable of creating wonders while challenging modern science to uncover their secrets. When gazing at the Golden Man, one does not simply see golden brilliance, but also senses the depth of history where technology, art, belief, and power fused into a mystery spanning millennia. And perhaps it is precisely these unsolved mysteries that make the Issyk one of the most fascinating and captivating symbols in the world of archaeology. The Dazu rock carvings, a complex of stone sculptures in Dazu County, Chongqing, China, is one of the most unique religious and artistic heritages ever created by humankind. Recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1999, it preserves more than 50,000 stone statues and about 100,000 inscriptions dating from the 9th to the 13th centuries. Beyond its massive scale and advanced carving techniques, the Dazu rock carvings contain layers of religious, philosophical, and mysterious meanings that have never been fully deciphered. These carvings are not merely proof of human creativity, but also open up many questions about faith, knowledge, and humanity's connection to the metaphysical world. So what do you think? Are the mysterious images at Dazu rock carvings merely products of art and religious belief? Or do they conceal a metaphysical message beyond human understanding? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The first feature that makes the Dazu rock carvings stand out is the rare religious syncretism. While many other stone-carved monuments were dedicated to a single belief system, the Dazu complex blends Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism. Visitors can see statues of Shakyamuni Buddha and Bodhisattva Guanyin side by side with images of Taoist sages and Confucian scholars. This reflects the deep cultural integration of medieval Chinese society and creates a multidimensional landscape where major ideologies do not oppose, but rather complement one another. Many scholars believe this was both a political strategy to strengthen social stability and an expression of an unusual spirit of openness that transcended traditional religious boundaries. Beyond its religious value, what makes the Dazu rock carvings truly astonishing is the carving technique that far surpassed the conventional knowledge of its time. The entire complex was sculpted on sandstone, a soft rock that is easily weathered and typically fragile against the passage of time and harsh climates. Yet after more than 1,000 years, many statues still preserve their exquisite lines and sharp details with facial expressions so vivid they seem lifelike. This phenomenon raises countless hypotheses. Did ancient artisans possess a special surface treating technique, or did they skillfully choose locations and carving orientations to minimize the effects of wind and rain? Moreover, many statues have retained their original colors, proving that the craft of blending mineral pigments and applying protective coatings had reached an exceptionally advanced level. The combination of grand scale, consistency in design, and lifelike realism has led many scholars to believe that there once existed unique technical secrets now lost to history, or perhaps even knowledge beyond the capabilities of their contemporary society. Another aspect that makes Dazu a stone library is its function as visual education. The reliefs not only depict deities but also scenes of daily life, tales of filial piety, lessons of cause and effect, and punishments in hell. This was how the ruling class conveyed moral messages to largely illiterate commoners. Instead of dry texts, vivid stone-carved images made it easier for people to understand and remember. The depiction of the 18 levels of hell with gruesome details of sins and punishments not only horrified viewers, but also served as a timeless warning. Hidden behind the splendor of the Dazu rock carvings is a veil of mystery that remains unsolved to this day. And it is precisely this element that fascinates scholars, travelers, and spiritual seekers alike. Many statues possess an unusual aura with wide-open eyes, surreal expressions, and unfamiliar postures that seem not to belong to the human world. Some have even compared them to depictions of extraterrestrial beings or traces of non-human knowledge. In particular, the reclining Buddha stretching an astonishing 31 m overwhelms not only with its sheer size, but also with a solemn stillness as though an invisible energy radiates from the massive stone form. Adding to this enigma is the thousand-armed, thousand-eyed Guanyin, where thousands of hands are carved with meticulous detail down to each finger, creating a vision at once majestic and almost unbelievable. Such masterpieces raise profound questions for posterity. How could ancient Chinese artisans without modern tools achieve such extraordinary precision and intricacy? Many hypotheses have been proposed to explain the extraordinary nature of the Dazu rock carvings. Some scholars suggest that beyond carving skills, the artisans may have possessed knowledge of mathematics, spatial geometry, or refined technical principles that have since been lost. Others put forth bolder ideas, claiming that the site was not purely the product of human effort, but may have been influenced by a form of metaphysical knowledge that transcended the capabilities of its time. Although controversial, these theories add depth to the veil of mystery surrounding Dazu, transforming it into not only an archaeological heritage, but also a destination that endlessly inspires the imagination of those fascinated by the unknown. Notably, many images appear to contain hidden messages. The carvings on filial piety, for instance, are expressed in continuous sequences like a stone-made film showing the journey of nurturing and repaying parents. Some scholars view this as a tool of governance using filial duty to reinforce social order, loyalty, and cohesion. Others argue that the excessively intricate and refined depictions carry more layers of meaning, possibly representing secret philosophical transmissions or pointing toward a cosmology broader than we currently know. The mystery of the Dazu rock carvings lies not only in their techniques or messages, but also in the overwhelming sensation when entering the site. Visitors often describe standing before the giant Buddhas with eyes that seem to follow them, feeling both awe and unease. The atmosphere conveys an unusual stillness, while at the same time suggesting the presence of something metaphysical. This blend of the sacred and the mysterious has made the Dazu rock carvings one of the most captivating and enigmatic heritages in the world. Today, even with advanced science and technology, many mysteries at Dazu remain unsolved. How have tens of thousands of statues maintained their detail under harsh natural conditions? Why do many carvings display a surreal style far beyond the artistic standards of their time? Could this be solely the result of collective genius? Or might there be some supernatural element involved? These questions continue to drive research while fueling endless imagination. In conclusion, the Dazu rock carvings are not only a grand complex of stone sculptures, but also a treasury of mysteries. From religious syncretism, timeless craftsmanship, and visual moral lessons to enigmatic images still undeciphered, all combine into a heritage both sacred and legendary. This makes Dazu not only a site for artistic admiration, but also a place to confront questions that transcend ordinary human knowledge. It reminds us that behind every silent block of stone may lie an entire universe of secrets challenging every generation to seek the answers. Located on the outskirts of Kucha City in today's harsh Darim Basin of Xinjiang, the Subashi ruins are regarded as one of the most important archaeological sites along the ancient Silk Road. Over thousands of years, the mud brick walls, temple foundations, and monastic remains have crumbled into ruins. Yet, they still evoke a golden era of Buddhism, commerce, and cultural exchange. Subashi was not just a monastery. It was also a religious, scholarly, and commercial hub connecting Eastern and Western civilizations. And precisely because of this special position, both the prosperity and the decline of Subashi remain full of unanswered questions to this day. What do you think caused such a powerful Buddhist and cultural center like Subashi to eventually fall into ruin? Share your thoughts in the comments below. When modern archaeologists began excavating Subashi in the late 19th century, they were overwhelmed by the scale of what remained of this complex. Not only did they uncover traces of grand Buddhist stupas and majestic shrines, but also extensive living quarters for monks, all constructed from mud brick and wood materials that seemed unlikely to withstand thousands of years in the harsh climate of the Darim Basin. This led researchers to wonder, did the ancients possess special construction techniques to reinforce buildings under such dry conditions and relentless sandstorms? Inside the ruins, the surviving Buddha statues, intricate reliefs, and fragments of murals offered vivid evidence of a unique artistic fusion. From Indian-inspired lines and Persian-style motifs to the flowing elegance of distinctively Chinese details all came together to create an aesthetic identity that could only have emerged at the crossroads of the Silk Road. This richness affirmed that Subashi was not only a religious center, but also a place of cultural convergence where streams of thought and art from many civilizations met and left enduring marks. Subashi is also closely linked to the name of Kumarajiva, one of the greatest translators of Buddhist scriptures in Chinese history. He was born and raised in Kucha, where Subashi was a flourishing Buddhist center. Here, Kumarajiva was trained in philosophy, languages, and doctrine before becoming a master translator in Chang'an, producing classical translations that profoundly influenced Chinese Buddhism. For this reason, Subashi was not merely an ancient monastery. It was also the cradle of a figure whose influence transcended borders, shaping the religious and cultural thought of an entire civilization. Yet from the 3rd to the 8th century, while Subashi gradually rose into a radiant center, it took only a few centuries afterward for the site to fade into oblivion. By around the 9th century, virtually no trace of religious activity remained in the area. Archaeologists found only ruins and fragments. But the greatest question remains, how could such a major center nearly vanish without a trace? Many scholars have proposed theories to explain the mysterious decline of Subashi, with climate being the most prominent factor. The Darim Basin has long been notorious for its harsh desertification, making human habitation precarious. During its prosperous era, rivers fed by the Tian Shan Mountains provided abundant water for farming and daily life, sustaining local communities and ensuring the monastery's existence. However, as the climate began to shift, prolonged drought caused these rivers to gradually dry up. Grasslands turned into barren sands and agriculture could no longer be maintained. Once water, the essential lifeline, disappeared, inhabitants were forced to migrate in search of better conditions, leaving once thriving structures to fall into ruin. This deep dependence on the natural environment meant that Subashi, despite its former glory, could not withstand the relentless cycle of climate change. Another important hypothesis suggests that Subashi's decline stemmed from continuous warfare and political upheaval. The Kutcha region, located at the heart of the Silk Road, was constantly contested by Chinese dynasties, northern nomadic tribes, and the kingdoms of the western regions. This unending conflict destroyed infrastructure, disrupted trade networks, and severely undermined religious life. Subashi may have endured fierce assaults that left the monastery devastated and forced its monastic community to abandon the site. Although no direct evidence has been found, traces of scorched walls and collapsed foundations strongly suggest that the violence of war played a significant role in driving this once flourishing Buddhist center into ruin. Another equally important factor in Subashi's decline was the weakening of the Silk Road during the 8th to 9th centuries. As trade routes gradually shifted southward or were disrupted by political instability, many centers that had heavily depended on commerce quickly lost their economic foundation. Subashi, once a vital stop for merchants and travelers, suddenly fell into isolation as the flow of people diminished. This led to the depletion of financial resources needed to sustain the monasteries, causing religious activities to decline sharply. Once trade was no longer the driving force of survival, the entire Buddhist community there collapsed, turning a once prosperous center into ruins within just a few centuries. Some scholars suggest a combined explanation. The fall of Subashi was not due to a single cause, but the accumulation of many: climate change, water scarcity, warfare, and shifting trade routes. Together, these forces pushed a once glorious center into ruin within just a few centuries. What makes the mystery even more compelling is comparison with other Buddhist monasteries in the region, such as Kizil or Bezeklik. Although many also declined, Subashi almost completely disappeared, leaving no prolonged religious activity into the medieval era. This vanishing act makes Subashi a unique case, like a historical void yet to be filled. Today, when standing before the decayed mud brick walls, one cannot help but wonder, how did people of the time construct such monumental buildings in the desert? And why did everything disappear so quickly? These unanswered questions are precisely why Subashi ruins attract both researchers and history enthusiasts. Artifacts uncovered at Subashi further illustrate the East-West connection. Buddha statues with serene Indian features, robes recalling Chinese tradition, and decorative elements reminiscent of Persian art all combine into a cultural symphony reflecting the very essence of Silk Road exchange. Yet this very diversity raises another question. How could a center that gathered so many cultural treasures fail to endure? Modern science continues to search for answers. Geological surveys, paleoclimate studies, and new archaeological excavations may reveal part of the truth. However, like many sites along the Silk Road, Subashi may forever remain shrouded in mystery, inviting humanity to keep exploring and reflecting on the fragility of once flourishing civilizations. In the end, Subashi ruins are not just religious remains, but a mirror reflecting the cycles of rise and fall in history. They remind us that any civilization, no matter how prosperous, can disappear under the forces of nature, politics, and economics. It is precisely this enigma of decline that makes Subashi one of humanity's great unanswered questions, a vivid testimony to both the fleetingness and the grandeur of human history. And so, we've reached the end of our mesmerizing journey along the Silk Road, from the ghost city of Merv, swallowed by the desert, to the cliffside caves whispering in forgotten tongues, the nomadic warriors weaving golden threads between east and west, and the stone monuments that still breathe with metaphysical meaning. These mysteries are more than relics. They are reminders that history always hides layers no one has fully uncovered. Thank you for traveling with Logic Relic through sands and shadows. Your curiosity is the torch that lights this journey. If you'd like to share your thoughts, your favorite mystery, or simply say thank you, drop a comment below. And if this channel has sparked your love for exploration, that subscribe button is the greatest gift, helping us continue to bring you profound stories of history, secrets, and the world's most mysterious creations. Logic Relic will always be here, waiting for you to return and open the next chapter. So tell us, which mystery do you think deserves to be uncovered next? See you soon.